Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist at the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting tonight's edition of Alaska Weather. On yesterday's satellite imagery, we had several surges of moisture in the form of these bands rolling up into the southeast coast. Pretty good one came up and brought some gale force winds into the southern areas yesterday with moderate rain. And today, some of that moisture pulls back to the west here along the North Gulf Coast. Most of the rain along and off the coast, especially today, the only reporting station was Yakutat, picked up about 0.04 of an inch of rain. And you can see the main area of moisture has actually dissipated and moved inland. This is what brought the clear skies in earlier today over south central Alaska. Some remnant clouds now moving in, but not much in the way of any precipitation with that. And Kodiak Island picked about a little over ½ inch of rain in the 24-hour period as well. So all of the moisture was down here along the Gulf Coast areas and in toward Kodiak. And some of that did clip the southern Kenai Peninsula. But more, another storm down here is going to bring actually this will push mostly into the south. So it'll bring some rain in over the southern areas, but not much in the way of winds. There are gale warnings out this evening for the southeast coast, about Port Alexander on up, and then small craft advisories for the North Gulf Coast. Back out to the west, a front coming into the eastern Aleutians yesterday. Most of that moisture pulling up toward the Pueblos, but nothing too heavy out there. And moving on to today, you can see that front really stretching out and weakening here, becoming quite thin. There from about False Pass over to near Unalaska, and the flow coming back and around, gusting as high as 40 miles an hour over the central Aleutians, with some rain and snow showers, and out in the colder air, all snow showers. Temperatures near freezing out there this afternoon near Shemya. And northeast winds here over the Chukchi Sea, 20 to 35 miles an hour, and gusts go over 50 miles an hour as they blow through the Bering Strait and then down across St. Lawrence Island in more of the 25 to 40 mile per hour range, and southward here, and then bend around this low that's southwest in Nikolsky, and some clearing here over Bristol Bay with this band setting out to the west there, but really just flurries along this feature up into the west central interior, and snow moving in over the Wrangell Mountains that made its way up to the North Waitok area this afternoon. And rolling this through again, you can see how they come up toward the southeast coast and then pull back to the west. And again, enough of a gradient here to keep the gales in along the northern southeast coast, northern half anyway, through this evening, and they'll drop off quite a bit later on tonight. Not bad over the interior, just some variable cloudiness. A few breezy areas, Delta Junction, again getting those gusts 37, 38 miles an hour out of the east-southeast. So the passes of the eastern Alaska Range, a little breezy yet today. And also higher elevations in and around the interior. Indian Mountain seeing gusts around 30 miles an hour this afternoon. Most everywhere else was pretty light. And here's on the chart today that storm system there off the coast. Heaviest rain again over the southern areas with lighter amounts up to the north, and then all the precipitation of this band mostly occurred along and off the coast, and then the snow lifting up across the Wrangell Mountains, getting into the far eastern Tanana Valley. Some flurries with this batch of clouds out through here. Then the Arctic coast seeing east winds 5 to 15 miles an hour for the central and eastern areas with flurries and fog. All the way up and across the north slope to the north side of the Berks Range there, but the winds really increase here, more gradient, and there's still some IFR blowing through the Bering Strait and possibly getting out to St. Lawrence Island, but not too bad. You can see some breaks here out over the Bering Sea area, as well as the Alaska Peninsula. And then the gusty winds and the tighter gradient coming around the low here, that's just south of the Fox Islands. Northerly winds were pretty brisk, and then the colder air back out to the west. And you can see very weak low in this area here, and that's going to keep the snow showers in over the western Aleutians. But there is high pressure out here to the west, and of course lighter, drier conditions, and that's going to be progressing eastward later on tonight. Low pressure just south of Resurrection Bay, more or less. Again, we'll keep a chance of rain along the North Gulf Coast, or showers back down to about Kodiak Island and then southward. And here's that next system that's going to be bringing the rain into the southern southeast coast. Conditions will be drier with some scattered rain and snow showers farther up to the north, and then still a chance of moisture along the North Gulf Coast into western Prince William Sound and locally in over the mountains here, the Kenai Peninsula, possibly the Chugach, but dry up over the interior. And not much in the way of wind, but some of the higher elevations may see a little bit of a breeze. The flurries continue mostly along the central Arctic coast, but even that won't amount to much. And the same pattern here through the Bering Strait down into the northern Bering Sea areas, with higher pressure here over the Russian Far East and the lower pressure down to the south. That's a very persistent pattern for this time of the year. And moving along to tomorrow, low pressure south of the Kenai Peninsula starting to pick up a southeasterly flow, or continue with a southeasterly flow here from the Gulf right up into the interior, but colder air back out here to the west, so starting to get into a little bit of a change that may lead to some increasing chances of snow for south central Alaska tomorrow night and into Monday. Meanwhile, we still have this pretty good fetch of wind from the Chukchi Sea through the strait all the way down to the eastern Aleutians, and less of a breeze here across the Alaska Peninsula. But rain and snow showers turning into just snow showers there for the Pribilos, but nothing really heavy in that area expected, with showers up along the North Gulf Coast. That'll extend down across the Panhandle with the southwest flow coming up, but the bulk of the energy going into the south. But there'll still be a few showers showing up tomorrow out there, or along the well, for all the way from Yakutat all the way down to the Queen Charlottes. And then that ridge of high pressure, even though there are snow showers out here, you can see it advancing eastward, or beginning to advance eastward, and ends up over the eastern Bering Sea Monday afternoon, with that front driving into the Aleutians. Probably bring some gale force winds into the western areas tomorrow evening or tomorrow night, and then that'll move into the central Aleutians. But minimum gales, looks like that's about it here for that as it moves in. And then some lingering snow showers along the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island area, but this trough axis that lines up right in about this position, much colder air pushing in southeastward here, right up along the Alaska Range, and then still southeast flow aloft, rolling in over the top of that. So that sets up a pattern that's could be, well, I'd say increasing chances of snow start tomorrow night, and then pretty good chance could see some snow across much of the area, Cook Inlet, into the valleys, especially on the west side here, and then rain and snow showers over Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast. Break over the southern Panhandle. It should be a dry day, maybe some clearing. Much stronger storm there off to the southwest. So look for those winds begin to increase from the east-southeast here along the southern areas. Right now, I think they'll stay below gale force, but depends on exactly the track and true depth of that storm, which we'll know more about tomorrow. Otherwise, a dry day, colder temperatures over the interior, but dry. Wind's not all that strong, and light winds and mostly dry conditions of the Brooks Range into the upper Yukon Valley. A little bit of moisture here, again, Northway Tok, south of Eagle, into the Wrangell Mountains, and then a kind of a band of flurries there from northwest Canada, just catching the eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise, light winds for the Arctic coast up there, much lighter in fact, and of course under the ridge, much lighter wind conditions as well. And looking at temperatures today, quite a range. Looks like Fairbanks was 2 degrees, 15 Delta Junction where there was more wind, -1 at Gulkana, 33 Cordova, at 37s at Middleton Island, and along the southeast coast, temperatures in the upper 30s to mid 40s. 46 there at Ketchikan, and a minus 2 at Eagle. Farther up to the north, that's Bettles, 13 above, with Thanatuvik at minus 12. Arctic Village there, 2 below 0. Kaktovik, though, on the eastern Arctic coast up above 0. And a 5 at Dead Horse, 5 below there at Barrow. Kotzebue had 1, and Ambler 7. Nome, 6 degrees, 12 degrees at Gamble, and that's 8 degrees there at Tin City with all the wind. 0 at Unalakleet, 3 degrees in McGrath. And down the river valley there, Sleepmute had 3, and Bethel was at 8. 12 at St. Mary's. St. Michael had 9. 16 Macoriac. And out to the southwest, back into the mid-30s here for the Pribilofs. 24 at Cape Newenham, and a 21 there at King Salmon, with temperatures right around the 40-degree mark from Kodiak Island all the way out to Unalaska. A little cooler there, 36 degrees. And out to the west, just 30 degrees with a lot of snow showers and north winds out of Chimia. For the lows tonight, below 0, maybe as low as 25 below on the north slope. A little milder out along the Arctic coast. North side of the peninsula there, 4 below Shishmaref, 5 above for Nome, right around 10 for St. Lawrence Island, and pretty good below 0 conditions, 10 to 20 below from the mid-river valley areas up across the Yukon Flats. South of the mountains, mostly in the teens to lower 20s to lower 30s along the coast, 30s to lower 40s for the southeast coast, upper 20s western Aleutians, otherwise in the 30s, and a little cool over Bristol Bay. For the highs tomorrow, coming back up to near 32 degrees at King Salmon. Togiak, though, only 23. 20s up along the southwest coast to St. Lawrence Island with below 0 conditions, north slope to the Arctic coast and areas of the eastern interior here. 20s to mid-30s south of the Alaska Range, on down to mid-40s across Kodiak Island, and about the same temperature-wise tomorrow as it was today for the Panhandle. And for flying weather, areas IFR here, eastern Arctic coast, especially early in the day with better conditions off to the west, but marginal VFR, IFR through the Bering Strait, possibly St. Lawrence Island. Not too bad out here over the Bering Sea, just some hit and miss marginal VFR, especially along the upslope areas of any terrain. And then marginal VFR, probably be a few areas of IFR in this band up along the North Gulf Coast, which will mostly improve here and be off the coast of the Panhandle tomorrow, but there still will be some areas of marginal flying conditions in over the inside waters there. And again, that flow from the southeast, that'll probably bring some surges of IFR into western Prince William Sound and portions of the Kenai Peninsula. But Kodiak Island becoming VFR tomorrow as that moisture band shifts off to the east-southeast there, and a lot of VFR here for the western interior. Just some areas of marginal VFR along the mountainous areas and up here over the 40-mile country. For Anatuvik, looks good. VFR either approach. Much of the Berks Range does, as well as Adigan. And for the western Alaska Range, both western and eastern entrances will be VFR. And for Rainy, a little different pattern there. VFR for the most part, but on this eastern approach, as the moisture increases tomorrow afternoon over the northern part of that range, could go marginal there on the east side. For Windy, VFR, and Isabel, marginal VFR, possible on the southern entrance. And that same forecast also good for Mentasta. And for Tanita, open. I think the ceilings will start to come down, but they should stay above or high enough to keep it VFR. And for Portage, could start out with some IFR, and that hopefully will improve to marginal VFR in the eastern entrance, maybe a little higher conditions throughout the day on the west side. And for Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR should improve to VFR, at least trend that way throughout much of the day. Freezing levels here, 2,000 feet about sums it up, and that's along the North Gulf Coast. Actually all along the coastline here, areas of out to the west, and then about 2,000 feet, that continued east-southeast flow, keeping it milder in that area. At the surface, kind of meanders across the Bering Sea here, down to the Alaska Peninsula, up along the North Gulf Coast, and through the Panhandle. And icing threats, again, from southeast to northwest, that'll funnel at the best chances of icing. It'll show up Montague Island, western Prince William Sound, the Kenai Peninsula. Areas of the more moderate stuff possible here on down across the southeast coast. Icing free for the most part, or will be icing free for the remainder of interior Alaska, Bering Sea, and this stuff out here to the west poised to move in tomorrow night and on Monday. And looking at the winds aloft chart, of course, Pacific Jet well south of the area, so no big storms rolling into the state of Alaska. We do have this trough out here to the west, and colder air sliding into the northern Bering Sea. That whole pattern gradually inching its way eastward with the upper ridge through this area. Still have south to north flow here, but as this progresses eastward, those values of vorticity will increase, and so will the chances of snow tomorrow night and on Monday here for south central Alaska, even possibly even the western areas. For the 9,000 foot wind flow, north to south, 20 to 35 knots here to the west, eastern Bering Sea and along the coast. More so for the eastern Aleutians, less wind for Bristol Bay, lighter under the trough axis, and not all that much stronger over the eastern interior, just 10 to 15 knots. And those stronger winds staying northeast of the eastern Arctic coast. 3,000 foot winds show a big increase here just west of Shimia. That probably won't roll into the area there until tomorrow evening. And north to south flow, much the same direction as we saw at 9,000 feet out here through the Bering Strait and into the eastern Bering. A trough through this area, southerly winds on the light side, only at about 5 to 10, about 10 knots to the Panhandle, and the stronger winds, mostly Dixon entrance southward. And turbulence-wise, and with that, the turbulence, the heaviest stuff, will be from Dixon entrance southward. Not too bad up over the northern areas. Much of interior Alaska, pretty well turbulence-free. Could see some light stuff here along the coast with the more moderate type through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, and maybe just touching the Yukon Delta coast, west of Nunivak Island, on down into the Aleutians, and that area out there to the west will be moving in tomorrow evening. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
There are some important things we can all do to avoid runway incursions. Things we probably all know, or have known but forgotten, or that we sometimes overlook because of distractions. Some of these things are simply plain old common sense. Always look, listen, and expect the unexpected. Minimize distractions by keeping a sterile cockpit while taxiing. Know where you are and where you're going. Never guess. Always know. And if you don't know or are uncertain, always ask. And that brings me to a word or two about the best ally we pilots have at a Howard Airport, the air traffic controller.
Runway 25 left at Delta position and hold traffic on the downwind.
These are the professionals dedicated to leading us safely through the often complex and confusing runways and taxiways and traffic of a Howard Airport.
Cessna 6 here, Papa turning base at the 605 freeway, report turning final.
The pace of air traffic communications can be confusing, even overwhelming. We should not feel hesitant to ask controllers to repeat an instruction, to ask for progressive taxi instructions if we need them.
Narrow ground, Cherokee 32123, request progressive taxi instructions, please. November, Charlie, Bravo.
If you don't know, ask. If you aren't sure, verify.
When communicating with air traffic control, always listen before you transmit.
Cessna 3284 Delta, holding position, runway 19 right.
Also, listen to what the controller is saying to other aircraft. It can have a critical bearing on your safety. Again, maintaining situational awareness at all times is key. Be sure you understand all air traffic control instructions. If you receive a clearance you don't understand or is contrary to your position on the airport, you should verify the clearance.
Cessna 453 Sierra Papa. Runway 19er, full length, cleared for takeoff.
Air Tower, Cessna 453 Sierra Papa. Is at Bravo 3. Verify we're still cleared for takeoff.
Cessna 3 Sierra Papa. Negative, hold your position.
453 Sierra Papa. Holding short, runway 19 at Bravo 3.
Runway incursions occur most frequently when pilots enter or cross a runway without authorization. Typically, communication between the pilot and air traffic control is good. Pilots hear and read back hold short instructions and know what they're supposed to do.
Cessna 93018, hold short, runway 26 right.
But they cross hold short lines or taxi on the runway without authorization anyway. Always read back all hold short instructions.
Arrow 1504, hold short, runway 6 left.
Arrow 1504, hold short, runway 6 left.
A simple Roger won't do. This applies to position and hold and clearances to enter a runway as well.
Cessna 80138, position and hold, runway 25 left.
Cessna 80138, position and hold, runway 25 left.
We can avoid most runway incursions by reducing distraction in the cockpit while taxiing, familiarizing ourselves with our departure and our destination airports, and staying alert at all times.
Be sure to write down taxi instructions, but never do it on the move. It can be a distraction. The same is true with checklists. Conduct them while stopped, never on the move. Pilots, controllers, and drivers all rely on their eyes as their primary sensors. And the simple fact is, our eyes don't work as well at night as they do during the day. The visual acuity we lose at night, combined with inconsistent cockpit lighting, canopy reflections, and possible rain, snow, or fog, make taxi, takeoff, and landing operations that seem easy during the day a real challenge at night. Pilots should observe a few simple lighting standards that will help those around them maintain their situational awareness. When taxiing into position and hold, turn on all exterior lights except landing lights. This will make your aircraft more conspicuous to other aircraft on final. Don't turn on your landing lights until you have been given clearance to take off. If you see an aircraft with its landing lights turned on, it's a clear signal that that aircraft is moving or is about to move down the runway for takeoff. When instructed to cross a runway, turn on all lights, including landing lights. The exception would be if your lights would interfere with someone holding or approaching from the other side of the runway. Also, when you line up for departure at night, consider lining up about 3 feet to the left or right of center line, so another pilot on final can more easily distinguish your aircraft from the runway lights.
Welcome back. Still possible small craft advisories here, at least for a short time tomorrow, 25 knots or less there to the south and about south to southwest, 15 to 20 all the way up the coastline. Inside waters, south 20 and kind of a general southerly direction there at about 15 up to the north. Then for Monday, just about everywhere takes on a southeast direction with that storm down to the southwest. Bring it up to 30 knots, and that should be good to cover it now, at least trend it in the right direction at this point in time. Small craft advisories on the south coast, 20 knots up to the north, and southeast 15, increasing to 20 knots here, increasing winds over the southern inside waters Monday afternoon. East at 20 for the North Gulf Coast tomorrow, kind of a southeast or variable wind there for Prince William Sound. Northern Cook Inlet as well, all on the light side. Light northwesterlies here for the Barren Islands and Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait zones. For Monday, northeast at 15 through the inlet, swings around to the northwest, or winds will be trending in these directions throughout the day, depending on exactly where that trough axis lines up across the peninsula. Northwest, Shelikof Strait, light winds on the east side of Kodiak Island, and an easterly flow here for the North Gulf Coast of 15 to maybe 20 knots. And for Bristol Bay, north at 15 tomorrow, north also here a little higher, 20 knots for the Alaska Peninsula, and southwest winds, or northwest winds from Sitkinak southwestward here all the way to the end of the peninsula. For Monday, north at 10, pretty light for Bristol Bay, and probably small craft advisories here southwest of Kodiak Island there through that zone, and then lightening up to 20 knots for the western peninsula and 15 on the Bering Sea side. For tonight, or for tomorrow, winds swing around, high pressure ridge comes across the western Aleutians, and winds are light out there and not all that much stronger here east of the ridge, but small craft advisories for the Fox Islands with seas running 7 to 13 feet there. And then for Monday, that front brings probably gales into the western areas here Sunday night. And then Monday, it mostly slides off to the east, so less gradient here to the north. And possible gales here south of AKwx, and that's about it, with pretty light winds over the Fox Islands. For Sunday, tomorrow, the west coast, small craft advisories, freezing spray to heavy freezing spray. Perbola starting out 25 knots, and these winds over the western areas will be coming down considerably from these. These will be early in the day values here, especially for St. Paul, St. Matthew Island, and even St. Lawrence Island. And then we'll see light winds tomorrow night, and gosh, that other frame vanished. East 5 for the eastern Arctic coast on Monday, and southwest 10 to 20 here for the coast. 20 knots on the west side. Again, this is Monday's forecast. I'll see what follows this one. Lighter winds for the Chukchi Sea. And for tomorrow, I don't know how that happens, but brisk wind advisories out here for the Chukchi Sea in the western areas, and lighter 15-knot winds from the east-northeast, and still some brisk wind advisories there along the east side. And for tonight, heaviest rain will continue to be down here over the southern southeast coast, lighter to nothing up to the north, just some scattered showers. Scattered showers, 2 areas of light rain for the North Gulf Coast remaining. Well, this wind flow may try to pull a little bit more into the coast, and maybe Prince William Sound as well, but fair over the interior. And this colder, gusty wind condition out over the Bering Sea will turn a little more northerly tomorrow as this high pressure area ridge out here begins to make a good stride to the east, as we'll see on Monday. And the trough comes inland, colder air pushes in from the west-northwest, and overriding snow possible for south central Alaska, and a break over the panhandle before the next storm rolls in. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.